Hey there, everybody. Let me just check the camera setup. It might be just a tad too high for you to see the counter. Let me see. Yeah, let me lower this just a tad. Let's see if I can figure out how. Bear with me. Whoops. I could use my assistant. Sorry. Let's see. If you're watching and you can tell me if that's good, send me a comment real quick. Let me see here. I'll pull it up. Oh yeah, that looks good from what I can see. So let me know if you have any trouble seeing the video. Okay, so hello everybody. Today is April the 20th, and I did a live a couple weeks ago, and one of you, thanks Pretty, suggested that I do a cook with me live, or maybe I suggested it and she suggested pot pie. I think that's what it was. So I have a great paleo chicken pot pie recipe. It's just this amazing, yummy, flavorful, you know, like the stew part of it, and then a great crust, and you can make that traditional pot pie version, you know, like a pie with crust on the bottom, crust on the top, and you bake it in the oven. But it takes a long time, and I thought this would be a great recipe to make in the Instant Pot. So this was last year sometime. I made it over for an Instant Pot version, and that's what we're going to do today. So we're going to do it together live. If nobody is on here live with me, then you can just watch it later and pretend. So you can see I got my ingredients out, but I haven't started to do anything. I've washed my vegetables, and that's it. So we're going to do this in real time. I did go ahead, first of all, the recipe is on autoimmunefreecookingclub.com. You have to go to recipes, and then below that is it says free recipes, and those are available for free. You have to create a free membership to access those, but then the recipe is there. You can print it out or just pull it up and look at it. But I hope if you were planning to do this with me, you did that already. So this recipe is available for you, and let's get started. Okay, so I'm going to turn my Instant Pot on saute more. So I just hit saute, and I might have to adjust, but it's already on more. You have like 10 to 15 seconds to adjust once you choose your cooking option, whether it's slow cook, saute, or pressure. But then once it beeps, it's set. So if you're like, oh no, I want a lower level, you have to actually turn the pot off, select your cooking method again, and then adjust it, okay? So I turned that on more. I want 2 tablespoons of cooking fat. To keep this paleo, you would want to use ghee or avocado oil, coconut oil, something like that. I'm out of ghee, and I have that little chunk of grass-fed butter left. I didn't want to open up a new block of butter, so I just added a little avocado oil to get enough fat in there. And then I'm just going to start chopping up my veggies. I've been saving my onions, my carrots, my celery, and my chicken because I haven't been to the grocery store for a while and don't want to go for a while, but I knew that I had this coming, so I've been saving these. Now, the recipe also calls for mushrooms, which I don't have, and frozen green beans, which I did have, and I was thinking, oh, I've got these green beans. Now, I knew it was a partial bag, and it had been in my freezer open. I mean, not open, but you know what I mean. Like I had used half of it before, and I had it closed up, but it wasn't in a Ziploc bag or anything. It was just kind of sealed up in there. And I opened up that bag, and they had a really strong freezer smell. And so I just opted not to use those because I'm very sensitive to that taste. I don't like it. I just didn't want to mess up this dish with green beans that had a freezer taste. And knowing that it will really overtake the whole dish. And so I opted to throw those away. I had a can of green beans in the pantry, which I had planned to cook later in the week, but that's okay. We'll cook them now. I have a few other veggies up my sleeve. If you're here, leave a comment so I know you're here. Say hello. So I'm just going to chop and add things. My recipe calls for a teaspoon of salt, and I have tasted my broth. This is my homemade chicken broth, and it is not salty at all. However, I'm adding canned green beans, and these are not the no salt version because those were not available when I was able to get these canned beans at the beginning of this whole pandemic stuff. They have a lot of sodium. So I am going to add, this is my little 1/8 of a teaspoon measure. I keep it in my salt because an 1/8 of a teaspoon for our taste is the perfect amount for 2 eggs. So that's what we're cooking all the time. But also it's just like the right amount to sprinkle a little bit in at a time. So I'm going to definitely hold back on the salt a little bit because those beans are so salty. Okay, so I have 3 stalks of celery. This was not organic celery. This is the end of my non-organic that I got when I did my grocery delivery order, and I got basically nothing I actually asked for. And one of the problems was that she didn't get me any organic produce, and she didn't say that she was substituting because organic wasn't available. She just brought me regular, and I had to pay the organic prices, which Instacart was great, and they refunded my money right away. But I was very frustrated with that because certain things, the Dirty Dozen stuff, I only wanted organic. But I've had it and I didn't want to waste it. So anyway, I'm using it. I washed it really, really, really well. Really well. So it's 3 stalks of celery. Nobody is here with me. If you're here, be sure to comment. I recognize that 5 o'clock is early if you're not on the East Coast, or maybe you're even, you know, on the East Coast, but you're still working. However, I do have to give preference to my family since they're the ones I have to actually feed. And so this is when I needed to cook to be able to feed my family at the right time. And that little piece of carrot rolled off and fell on the floor, and I'm going to just pretend like I'm not real particular and it's not bothering me that it is down there on the floor. But it is bothering me that it is down there on the floor. Okay, Pretty's here. Thanks, Pretty. It's nice to see you. So I have these 3 carrots. Again, I washed them. I did not peel them, but I did wash them really well. These were organic, so I didn't feel like I needed to peel them. And I'm just going to dice them, you know, similar size to the celery and the onions, but I'm just not going to be super persnickety about that either. I don't want a great big bite of carrot. You know, you want little dice, but I'm not measuring them. It's just fine. Pretty, are you cooking the chicken pot pie with me? Let me know. Or are you just going to hang out with us? Pretty, you're so sweet. You always say to bless us, and you're praying for our family. We certainly need it, that's for sure. Okay, so that was 3 carrots, 3 stalks of celery, and 1 onion. And there is some salt. I'm actually going to put some pepper in there too. Did I say Chris is down here being my moderator? Pretty, you just finished. Tell us what you cooked for dinner. Okay, so I don't have mushrooms, but I did find this head of cauliflower in the fridge that I didn't realize I had. And so this is half of the head of cauliflower. And I'm going to put it in my pot pie, which, you know, a lot of people put potatoes in their chicken pot pie. And a lot of people substitute cauliflower for potatoes. So we are going to have a little cauliflower in our chicken pot pie. And it's not the same as mushrooms. It's not at all the same kind of vegetable. But it's another vegetable. And it needed a home. And so I'm going to put it in there. You probably just heard my oven beep. It was coming up to 375. That's for my crust. So the way we make this Instant Pot, but still have all the components of a traditional chicken pot pie, is that the chicken part, the gravy-like part, goes in the Instant Pot, and while that's cooking, we make the crust and just bake that separately. And then it's kind of like crackers that you can crumble into your chicken soup part, or you can just have it on the side, or like my daughter doesn't like it at all and she doesn't eat any, and so that leaves more for the rest of us. Beets and rice, lentil, butter, eggplant curry. You're always making curry, Pretty. We just were talking about curry the other night because I don't cook curry. I don't know how and to make good curry. And my son has never tasted it. He's like, what does curry even taste like? Like, I do not know how to describe it other than to say some people's curry is spicy. But I do. You'd probably be ashamed of me, Pretty. I have a jar of curry powder in my cupboard, which I'm sure is not fabulous, but I had a recipe that called for that ages ago, and so I have it. Okay, so I put in my salt and pepper, and the other seasoning that goes in here is poultry seasoning. When you go kind of rogue and start asking other questions, it makes it really hard for me because I have my own agenda.
Okay.
So I have a super helpful assistant that is such an extrovert, and he just can't sit there and wait for people to comment. He has to start conversations, which is great, but it throws off my mojo. I got my own thing going on over here, and he is making that a little difficult for me with all of his conversation starters. Okay, so my veggies are just in there. Sorry, you can't get the overhead shot when we do these lives. That's the one thing that I have not been able to work out. All right, this is about 1.5 pounds of boneless, skinless chicken breasts. This is the kind they have at my Whole Foods, Bell & Evans. It's air chilled. And I tell you what, this is like gold right now. And the last time I went, they had it. And I asked the meat guy, I was like, it looks like you have everything, you know, there's just a little bit of it, but there's some of everything out there. And he said, yeah, you know, we don't put it all out at once, so it's not like just the people that come first thing in the morning get the chicken. And you're limited. I think when all this stuff started, it was 5. You could get 5 packages of meat, and now I think it's 2. So I got 2. And I've been doing shopping for my parents, and so the store people have been really great. Nobody has questioned me and said, oh, you know, you have 4 packages. It's just, I've got this order that's this stuff, and I got this order that's, you know, this stuff is mine and theirs, and that's been totally fine. That hasn't been an issue at all. Sensible Crime is here. Hey there, how are you doing? A semi-vegan, so no chicken for me. Ooh, you have a brand new Instant Pot. Have you made anything in your Instant Pot yet? Tell us if you have. And you know, you could make the same thing with, you could use vegetable broth instead of chicken broth, and you could put in beans or whatever it is that you use for your protein, and just have all the vegetables and the flavors. It would be delicious. I say that I'm not a vegetarian. I was a vegetarian for a while. Not vegan, but vegetarian. So tell me what you would sub, if you would ever even try to make something like this. I've seen the vegetable pot pie, so maybe that. Making lots of oatmeal and beans. You know what? That's great, because you're getting your vitamins, and you're getting some protein, and it's easy. Are you still working in a doctor's office? And is your office busy, or have y'all cut down on people coming? You know, like no non-essential visits kind of thing. Do you know what I mean? All right, so I'm chopping up my chicken. It's taking me a little while, and my veggies are just cooking. I should stir them. But you know, my hands are dirty. This is live TV. I can't edit out all my hand washing. I am going to clean up my trash just a little bit and get this out of the way. Pardon me while you have to look at my back while I wash my hands. All right, Chris, now you can talk.
Okay, so Sensible Crime says that she's not in the medical field, but in the travel industry.
Oh.
Which has got to be nuts.
Oh, wow. That's why you're eating beans and oatmeal? I am sorry. I can only imagine how some of these different industries are being affected. It's sad, and we're seeing these protests with people, wanting everything to open back up again. But like here, we're still seeing hundreds of new cases every day, triple-digit new cases in North Carolina, and I don't think we should be opening things back up. So, we are praying for our government officials, the people who are making these decisions, because that's not an enviable place to be, having to make these tough decisions. So many lives are in the balance both ways, financially and health-wise. Okay, so I put my chicken in, and I'm going to add a little bit more salt. I'm just about ready to get this thing going. I have a couple more seasonings, and this is what really kicks it up a notch. Thank you for encouraging people to stay home. We need to work together. Yes, you know what? I don't understand the people that are kind of ignoring the guidance. Y'all, I need a teaspoon of lemon juice, and this is one that I sort of have partially squeezed, so I'm just going to squeeze it into my hand and get the rest out of there. When I go to the grocery store, it's like 50-50. Half of the people have on the masks, which our governor said everybody should have on a mask. You shouldn't be allowed in the store without a mask. But half of the people did not have a mask or gloves. The grocery store was supposed to be limiting the number of people that came in. They weren't, So many people are not doing their part. It's very frustrating, and we're not gonna solve this problem if everybody doesn't work together. Okay, I'll get off my soapbox, get on my chicken pot pie box. Okay, a tablespoon of coconut aminos. That was for that. I think I didn't get out this measuring spoon. That's probably because I usually don't measure. Okay, so the lemon juice and the coconut aminos are because way back in the day I used to watch America's Test Kitchen and Cook's Country on PBS. They said, one of the shows I watched, that whenever you have a dish that just needs a little something, to add either lemon juice or soy sauce or both. And so we don't use soy sauce because of the soy, that can be inflammatory. We use coconut aminos instead, which taste very much the same. So I did both. When I was making this recipe, I was like, it needs a little something. So coconut aminos and lemon juice, and that just kicked it right over the edge. Okay, so I need 3 tablespoons of arrowroot. Something I wanted to talk to you about while I've been cooking is substitutions. Actually, I need this for my crust. So arrowroot is just a starch. It's a thickener. It helps to create a really nice texture for baked goods. But you can substitute tapioca starch, the 1-for-1 if you don't have arrowroot. If you don't have your Paleo kitchen stocked and you have cornstarch, you can use that. It's not my first choice. It's so highly processed. Corn is a grain. It's inflammatory to a lot of people. So that wouldn't be my first choice. But if you're trying to make some good food for your family and you need to add a couple tablespoons of cornstarch, add a couple of tablespoons of cornstarch. It's okay. So that would be a substitute thickener. And now, okay, so I put in my butter, onions, carrots, celery, not mushrooms, but cauliflower, arrowroot. I'm about to add my green beans, salt and pepper, poultry seasoning, broth, coconut, aminos, lemon juice, and chicken. So this was a homemade broth, and it was just shy of 2 cups, and so I tasted it, and it was super flavorful, so I just added a little bit of water to get up to 2 cups rather than have to open a carton. But I do buy this Pacific Foods organic bone broth at Costco, and it has 9 grams of protein per serving, which is great. It doesn't taste as good as homemade, but it's a really great substitute and something helpful to have, in your cabinet. So these green beans are gonna get way overcooked in the Instant Pot. But you know what? I just don't care. I want the green beans in there, and I don't want to have to add them later. I'm just being lazy and easy and getting everything in there at once. And this might end up needing a little bit more broth, but we'll see how it goes. Some liquid will cook out of our chicken. So I'm getting ready to pressurize this. And I'm going to do high pressure for 10 minutes. If you're using chicken thighs instead of chicken breast, or if your chicken was sort of frozen, you might want to do 15 minutes. Somewhat manual. It's always on high pressure because I never use low pressure. 10 minutes. So we're just going to set that to the side, and I'm going to make my crust. Chris has been doing a good job of manning the comments, but let me take a minute and just look. Sensible Crime trying to keep a schedule. Tonight will be vegetable lo mein with tofu. It's nice to be able to chat. It makes me feel normal. I know, you know, one of my best friends called me. I think it's been 2 weeks now. I really need to call her again. But gave me a call, and I was like, wow, you know, I think we talked on the phone for maybe 45 minutes. It was wonderful just to hear the voice of a friend. And we had several friends of mine. We have Mom's Night Out. We say we would like to do it every month. It ends up being, you know, 3 or 4 times a year. But we did Mom's Night Out via Zoom, and that was really fun. Just to see each other's faces, you know. I'm not a hugger, but like I'm really not a hugger. But I feel like hugging somebody. You know, I can hug my kids, and of course I can hug my sweet husband. Okay, speaking of which, sweet husband, I need you to get me my lard out of the fridge. So I got everything out except the lard that I need for my crust because it just sort of melts at room temperature, and I really wanted it to stay cold so I would have a nice flaky crust. Chris,
Yeah.
it's in the refrigerator. It's lard.
Oh, in there.
And it's in a little 2 tablespoon measuring cup. Okay, so this crust is so good. And Sensible Crime, you could make this by, instead of using the lard, just use, you could use grass-fed, oh, butter is not vegan, is it? Sorry, I'm just not good with the vegan stuff. But you could use palm shortening or whatever you would typically use for something like a shortening type thing. But to keep it anti-inflammatory, I would go with the palm shortening. You can use the red palm shortening, either way. Okay, so I want a heaping 3/4 of a cup of almond flour, which has great nutrition. It has a little protein. It has some iron. It has a good amount of iron, actually. Calcium, potassium, some vitamin E. So I think, oh, you know, I'm eating baked goods, and I have to remind myself, well, they're mostly almonds, and so that's a nutritious choice. So I need, let's see, 1/3 of a cup of arrowroot. I could have looked at my measuring cup because that would tell me. This one is not heaping. I had this spoon out to taste my broth, and I didn't use it. Okay, so 3/4 of a cup of almond and 1/3 of a cup of arrowroot. And then salt, 1/4 of a teaspoon of salt, so 2 of my little 1/8 of a teaspoons. Are you having nice weather where you are? We, I guess, did Pretty say she's in Toronto?
Yes.
You're probably still having pretty cold weather. And you know, ours is like totally up and down, but I'm not complaining. We've had nice warm days in the 60s and 70s. We've had a lot of sunshine. We've had a lot of things pretty and blooming. So I'm not complaining, but I do think about in parts of the country where the weather is not as nice and you can't officially go anyplace. It's, you know, you're probably not enjoying as many outdoor walks as we've been able to. I'm thankful for that. So this was 2 tablespoons of lard. So my grandma taught me how to make pastry crust way back when I was very little. I got very heavily critiqued on my pie crust by my dad and my grandfather, which some people think, gosh, that's really mean. But it wasn't mean. It wasn't done in meanness. It was just trying to teach me how to make a good pie crust. And my grandma didn't use recipes for a lot of things. She would say, you have to do it by feel. And so that's why I use my hands a lot. My mom taught me a lot of cooking too, but she used recipes more. So I'm working my lard into my flour. And Sensible, I make a big salad with beans or hummus. I try to avoid a lot of processed oils. The avocado tip was great, yeah.
Yep. She wants more salad dressing recipes.
Oh, okay. You know what? I don't know how many I have published.
You make a lot.
I make a lot, you know what? Because I always make mayonnaise because I like a creamy salad dressing. I'll kind of go in spurts. Sometimes I just like olive oil and balsamic vinegar. And then I'll revert back to liking something creamy. And Chris likes the creamy ones better. So I'll tend to just make a bunch of that up. So like a honey mustard where I just put in honey and mustard. A little onion powder adds a lot of really great flavor to that. We've been doing like a Thousand Island lately where I put a little bit of tomato paste or even ketchup if I'm out of tomato paste in with the mayonnaise, and then like some pickle relish, something like that. I often use hot sauce. I like Frank's hot sauce the best. It's just the flavor that I like. Sometimes I'll make a honey mustard crossed with a what was I just saying? Thousand Island, that kind of thing. I just get a bunch of bottles out and start putting things in until I like the way it tastes. Oh, it's warm for you today and pretty good. I'm glad. I hope you're able to get outside. Pretty, did I tell you that you inspired me last time when I hopped on? I said, what have you been doing? And you said you've been cooking with your kids. I was like, oh, I should be cooking with my kids, and I haven't been. But you inspired me. And so, okay, so I'm just putting a little bit of arrowroot out to roll out my crust. You want to get enough water in your dough that it holds together nicely, but not so much that it's sloppy, you know? So again, you just have to use your hands so you can feel it. So I asked my kids, what do you want to learn to cook? And my son said burgers. And my daughter said General Tso's chicken, which I'm pretty sure I have that recipe on here. And so my son made burgers and some pan sauteed okra. He did that Friday night. So my daughter's turn to cook will be this Friday night, General Tso's chicken. So I'm proud of myself and have to just make myself continue to do it. You know, it takes so much longer to teach somebody else how to cook than to just get in the kitchen and do it myself. But I will be doing them such a disservice if I let them leave my house someday without having taught them to cook. Okay, so I just have to keep adding a little bit because it's sticking. And I'm rolling this out on a Silpat, a silicone baking mat. You could use a piece of parchment as well. I just have these Silpats, so that's what I'm using. It's just a reusable baking mat. And I'm just kind of feeling it because I want it to be about the same thickness all over, which is pretty thin, you know, less than 1/4 of an inch. So it just kind of ripped up a little bit there. That's fine. I'm going to try to knock that extra arrowroot off. I just don't want to get that in the oven. And then I need to cut it and dock it, and I didn't get those things out. So Chris is doing such a good job of answering my comments. I'm not paying that much attention. I'm sorry. I'll look at them in a second. I gotta wash my hands again.
So Sensible Crime, she says she mainly likes oil with salad dressings. The vegan sour creams and other creamy substitutes just don't appeal to her.
Oh, okay. So you like the oil and vinegar. So I think a lot of that, to get a good flavor, you just have to have, you know, really good vinegar, which there are so many different ones, you know, like the rice wine vinegar, which is rice, you know, but a little bit of that is okay. It's sweet. Some champagne vinegar is really good. I love red wine vinegar, balsamic. I just buy the organic balsamic vinegar at Whole Foods. That's the one that I like. That's where you want to use your really good quality olive oil. You don't want to cook with your good olive oil. You're just going to lose the flavor. Whether or not you lose some of the nutrition when you cook olive oil is a topic of debate amongst experts, but if nothing else, it's just sort of wasting it, you know, when you cook with it. So save your good quality olive oil for your salad dressings, and then just put in herbs like tarragon is really great. I like oregano, makes sort of a Italian flavored vinaigrette. Dijon mustard works really well to keep it emulsified so it doesn't separate. So I always put, well, not always, sometimes I'll just pour on some oil and vinegar, but when I'm actually making salad dressing, I put some Dijon mustard in there and blend that together. Honey or maple syrup for a little sweetness to balance the vinegar. I know the traditional vinaigrette recipe, I think it's either 2 to 1 or 3 to 1, like way more oil than vinegar. And I just don't like that much oil. I tend to go more 1 to 1, but that's just a matter of preference. You're welcome for the ideas. I hope that's helpful. Okay, so my oven is 375. Here's my crust, and I'm pretty sure, let me check, but I think it bakes for 10 minutes. So it works out usually that the amount of time it takes this to come up to pressure is the amount of time it takes me to make my crust. So then this bakes for 10 minutes and that cooks under pressure for 10 minutes. I'm watching it because there was not a lot of extra liquid in my pot, and I'm concerned it's not going to seal. So I'm just keeping an eye on it. As I'm thinking about that, you know, cauliflower has a lot of water in it, but it has to really cook for the water to come out. When you put mushrooms in, they release a lot of their water right away. So there was less moisture at that initial stage of cooking than I would normally have. Okay, let me pop this in the oven. So I was slightly concerned that that wasn't going to seal. So if it continued, let me just talk to you about the Instant Pot for just a second. That's why I turned around, or I leaned forward to look at it, because the steam was coming out. It was in the process of coming under pressure. If the time was ticking down and it was still doing that, then that means my pot is not sealing. I would need to turn it off. It wouldn't be sealed, so I'd go ahead and open my lid at that time, stir it, figure out what's going on, add some more broth, whatever. But it did seal, so thank you. Okay, let me check my comments here. Oh, are you in?
She's in St. Louis.
You're in St. Louis. Oh yeah. Did you tell her about watching the fireworks through the arch? That was so awesome. So when we were there, they had just reopened. I don't know if the whole arch or just that museum area, the museum underneath. Yeah. And we were in such a hurry that we went in there to get pressed pennies for my kids. That's the souvenir that they collect when we travel. And so we just breezed through that museum, but it was so awesome, you know, all about Lewis and Clark. And I just love history, especially that American history. So I hated that we didn't get to spend more time there. But yeah, watching the fireworks through the arch was awesome. And then it just happened when I was planning. I just happened to go on Facebook one day, and a friend of mine was saying, hey, I'm going to St. Louis, what should we do? And so I was like, oh, we're going to St. Louis. Let me read what the comments are. And I mean, overwhelmingly the comments were, you have to go to City Museum. And so I immediately looked it up, and I'm just like, this is really bizarre. I can't even really tell what this is from reading on the website. And they're talking about knee pads and a flashlight. And I was confused. But I kept researching it, and I was like, okay, I think we have to go. And I mean, it was totally a highlight of our trip. Everybody really loved it. Yeah, the French and English influences. What are the kids studying right now? St. Louis has just come up again. Oh, I can't remember. I can hardly keep up with what they're doing, but St. Louis has come up again in our studies. So have y'all been cooking a lot? I've been cooking a lot. I mean, I feel like I always cook a lot, but we do eat out once a week. Typically, we have a date night. We'll have, my kids call it freezer food, and we get, gluten-free pizza or chicken tender or something like that. And even though I can make a version of that, it's just a treat for all of us, for me not to have to make it. And they, of course, love it. But we haven't been doing any of that. I've been cooking, but I've really enjoyed the creating process. I just made some lemon tarts. I don't know why. She's over there moaning and groaning.
So good.
I just felt like making some lemon tarts. And it was so simple, a lemon curd, which was just lemons and butter, and which you could make that vegan. Oh no, you can't because it has eggs. Sorry. It was lemon curd, butter, eggs, and honey. And that was the lemon curd. And then I whipped some cream and made it like a lemon pudding. Chris says, is anybody else craving comfort foods? Me. I'm craving comfort foods, which is why we're having chicken pot pie. Tomorrow we're having this thing called hillbilly casserole, which that video will be coming. Ooh, Pretty's taco night and creme brulee. Are you making creme brulee, Pretty, or did you make creme brulee? That is one of my favorite desserts. Whenever we find that in a restaurant, I buy it. I hate to like have to show you this finished product with such a dirty counter, but I don't want to take the time to clean it while I'm talking to you. I had some other things to talk about. I've been posting, so I hope you know I'm not just a one-trick pony over here. I have a website. It's called autoimmuneFreeCookingClub.com, and I post a lot of free stuff on there. It's like the base of this membership that I have, and then it's also just my home base where I post a lot of stuff. And so today and also last Monday, I posted our weekly meal plan because I just feel like a lot of people are like, what do I cook? Based on the fact that when I go to the grocery store, the frozen pizza section is empty. You know, people either don't want to or they don't know how or something. So I just thought I would help maybe with inspiration by sharing my meal plans with you, and kind of this is why I came up with this particular meal. This is what we're going to use. These are substitutions if you don't have what really goes in the recipe. Oh, hey, Denise. Oh, thank you. Trying to adapt, following doctor's orders, trying to reduce inflammation. Good for you. You know what? There's so much that's in our control. And so y'all probably know I have Crohn's disease. At least that's my diagnosis. I don't really think I still have it anymore, but the doctors tell me I still have it. But I do have arthritis in my feet because I had this structural problem with my feet. I had surgery to correct it, so I don't have cartilage between these joints, so I have arthritis in those joints. I do have the arthritis. The doctors tell me I do, and I do. But when I don't eat any sugar, I have so much less pain. It's amazing. Well, I've been having chocolate, and we had some Easter candy. I had a little bit of candy. If I have a little bit of our paleo sweeteners, maple syrup, coconut sugar, that kind of stuff, it's usually so little of that in recipes that doesn't bother me. At least I don't think it does. I don't notice it as much. But the processed sugars, ice cream, that kind of stuff really, really affects me. And it just makes it obvious that how we eat and just kind of how we live our lives in general has such an effect on the inflammation in our body. So all that to say, Denise, I'm really proud of you for trying, because it's hard. Denise says, comfort foods really missing pizza. Have hated all the gluten-free. Okay, so we just made this pizza last night, and it was so easy. It's called Crazy Crust Pizza, or maybe that's not even a real thing, but I just saw it on somebody else's YouTube channel. And of course I made it gluten-free. So I have a gluten-free flour mix recipe. And so I used my gluten-free flour. It's an egg, milk, and then seasoning. So I put basil and oregano and some salt. And it's liquid. It's like more liquid than pancake batter. And you pour it in I did a big 15 by 11, I think, sheet pan. And you pour it in there liquid, and then you bake it. And that's your crust. Then you put your toppings on and bake it again. And it was so good. It was the perfect texture, because my daughter has braces. I have Invisalign right now, so it's real hard for me to like bite into, like my kids love the Costco gluten-free pizza, but that crust is really hard. It's hard for me to bite. And it's so hard, it's hard to even cut with a knife and fork. But it tastes good. So anyway, this crust, like you could pick it up and eat it with your hands, and I could still bite it. So it was perfect. So that recipe will be coming. And then you just, you have to make your own toppings, your own sauce and, cheese, whatever toppings you want to put on it, which I like to do anyway. But it was super, super easy, fast, and made with really simple ingredients. I think most people could make that pizza at home. And like I said, it tasted really good. I was sneaky and I put mushrooms on most of it, so my kids didn't eat very much of it. So that means Chris and I got to have more, and he gets more leftovers. So maybe that's mean of me, but I don't think so. Yeah, let's see how much time we have left. Okay, 5 minutes. So let me talk about this for just a second. Typically, meat dishes in the Instant Pot, you want to allow a natural release of the pressure, at least 10 minutes. Give time for the liquid to come back into the meat so you don't end up with a dry roast. So I would use that method if I were making a roast or cooking a whole chicken, or, you know, carnitas, like a big pork roast, something like that. But something like this chicken pot pie or any other type of soup, you can just do a quick release. It's totally fine. Yeah, Sensible Crime, do you eat eggs? I'd be curious if you eat eggs. I use a lot of eggs. You know, I'm just trying to think of anti-inflammatory recipes to help you. Well, I guess it would be more along the lines of autoimmune paleo, because autoimmune paleo eliminates everything that paleo eliminates, grains and dairy, all of that, and then also eliminates nuts and eggs. And so, like, I made, talk about comfort food, I made onion rings the other day. And I have been experimenting with tiger nut flour, which tiger nut is not a nut, it's just a root. And so for the people that can't have nuts for, you know, allergies or, you know, the inflammatory purposes, the tiger nut is working out really, really well. And I use that to make a batter for the onion rings, and they were delicious. Yeah, Denise, I'll say I specialize in cookies. I love cookies. My mom is a great cookie baker. Grandma taught me how to make pie. Mom taught me how to make cookies and cakes and that sort of thing. Okay, so you use an egg substitute or make your own flax and water. Yeah, so in baking, or like even in that pizza crust, the flax egg would work great. I mean, I haven't tried it, but I have used the flax egg in a lot of other recipes, and it works really well. Like, somebody just asked me if they could leave the flax out of, it was the paleo pizza crust that I have that video on my channel, and I told her, I mean, you can, but that flax provides a lot of binding in the crust recipe, so it wouldn't be my first choice to substitute if you didn't have to. So yeah, that's a great choice, and a good anti-inflammatory ingredient. So I have a few more minutes, and I just wanted to tell y'all, I've just made this very last minute decision. So you probably know I just talked about the membership, the Autoimmune Free Cooking Club, which is like health coaching. It's for people like, I think you, where you're kind of on your journey already. You're already trying to manage your health with diet and lifestyle. And so that's what the membership is for. And I've been I've been working on a course for people who aren't where you are, people who are brand new, people who are like, I'm so tired of feeling like this. Is there any other way? Or like, I have a friend that has rheumatoid arthritis, which is autoimmune. And she's like, I'm so tired of going to the doctor and they give me a medicine and it doesn't work. And then I get another one and it doesn't work. And then I'm on steroids. And so it's for that person who hasn't really begun their journey yet with functional medicine. So I've been working on that course, and I just feel like right now is the time to offer that, but it's not ready. So instead of waiting, I've decided to open up my membership again for the same price it was last time, which is $29 a month. And if you join the membership, you'll get my course for free, and you're going to get it as it's available. I have it about half to 3/4 done. I'm not sure exactly, but it's a 6-week course. And instead of getting it all 6 weeks at once, everybody's going to get it like a month at a time, as I have it finished. And we'll work through it together. So you'll get this $400 course plus the benefits of the membership. So I'm opening that up, and it'll either be tomorrow or Wednesday. Like I said, I'm just doing this kind of by the seat of my pants. I wasn't planning this. It wasn't part of my long-term plan to do this right now. But I just feel like there's a need, and people are at home. And so I want to help. And I just realized I didn't set the timer for my crust. Let me grab that. So head over to autoimmunefreecookingclub.com if you're interested in that. You have a family member who would benefit from that type of information. There's all the details about it, but I wanted y'all to know about it in case it's something that you're interested in. If you've been waiting for me to open the membership again, it's about to open again. And I've not done all this marketing and stuff because, like I said, I wasn't planning it. Great idea, of course. Yeah, you know, the things that I felt like I needed way back at the beginning, I needed some hope that I could be better because I was so sick and I wanted a path. You know, somebody show me how to start. What's the next step? What's the next step? Give me some tools, like set me up for success. And I just figured it out on my own. I mean, I had some help. There's some good books and stuff, but it was just a lot of digging and figuring it out on my own. So that's why I've kind of built this course to be, here you go. This is the path and there is hope. So I'm excited for that. So that'll be coming in the next couple of days. And I'm going to click release this pressure because it's done. I don't know if you can hear me. I didn't used to put, did I put a towel over? Yeah. So I put a towel over, but I'm going to leave the towel over there. I'll show you what I'm going to do. Oh, Denise, I'm so sorry you've been laid off. Have you been furloughed? Like, are you planning to go? Is your employer telling you you can come back when COVID is over, or are you looking for something else? I'm so sorry. Yeah, it's such a tough time. And you know, if you're interested, Denise, just send me an email. Chris will put the address in there, and I can, I'll talk to you about letting you in even after it closes, because it's different circumstances right now, you know. So a little business insider information is, you know, if I say to you, I'm opening enrollment and I'm going to close it on the 30th, I have to close it on the 30th. And if somebody emails me on May the 1st and says, oh, I missed it, can I get in? I have to say no, because I want you to trust me and trust that my word is true. So enrollment closes on the 30th, but I also really want people to be well, and this is certainly a time for exceptions, is it not? Okay, so there's a lot of pressure because there's a lot of volume in there. I'm real curious to see how the cauliflower did. So Denise, you joined us a little bit later, or maybe you just commented later, but my recipe called for mushrooms and I didn't have any mushrooms, but I had some cauliflower, so I put cauliflower in my chicken pot pie. So I can smell it. I hope it tastes good. I like cauliflower. I love cauliflower roasted. If you have not roasted cauliflower, that is the way to make it. Oven at like 400. Put some good oil. I prefer avocado, but you could use like a light olive oil or ghee. You know, a good anti-inflammatory cooking oil. Coconut oil. I don't love coconut oil on my vegetables, but you could if you like that and have it. Salt and pepper, and just roast it for like 20 minutes. Flip it halfway through so it gets a little brown. It makes it taste like not even cauliflower. It's so yummy. So that took forever. The pressure is still not done, but it's almost done. So it used to be that I would put the towel in there, I would release the pressure, and then I would take the towel off. But now I leave the towel on because there's so much condensation in that lid that it drips and is painful. Ooh. Can really burn you, and so I don't want to be burned. I'm gonna use, oopsie, sorry. Let me turn that off, and I'm gonna remove this and just bring it over here so I can reach it. So it just, I don't know if you can see this. If I turn it up, will you be able to see it?
Let me get the camera.
Let me see. I don't know if you can see it. Let me look. Yeah, there you go. So it's just chicken soup, you know, is what that looks like. The green beans actually did not fall apart. I really thought that they would just be total, absolute mush, and they're not, which is great. My carrots are intact. The cauliflower has kind of fallen apart, which is actually great because then picky eaters will not be distracted by it. I want to taste this because of the seasoning. I'm just going to grab a little bit of the broth and see how that is. And then I'll show you how I dish this up and serve it. It's perfect. So I just serve it like soup. So like I said, my daughter doesn't like the crust. Like if I make traditional chicken pot pie, she eats the crust, but when I make it like this, she doesn't like it for some reason. Maybe because it's crispier. So, and there's just the right amount of broth in there. It's really, I should have trusted my recipe. It came out perfectly. So if y'all are fans of the Food Network, I mean, I'm a big fan of food TV. Some of the Food Network stars are cooking on YouTube. Paula Deen and Alton Brown, and they're so funny. And Paula Deen, I mean, I know she got in trouble for some stuff, but we'll just ignore that. I still think she's a good cook, and she's a sweet personality. She was making something, I can't even remember which one it was, maybe banana pudding. And she's like, I don't know whose recipe this is. They just printed this recipe out for me. This doesn't look right. It calls for a cup of sugar. I only use a half a cup of sugar. And anyway, as she went through making the recipe, she's like, oh, I really need to add more sugar. Well, I ended up adding that whole cup. Well, maybe that recipe was right after all. And turns out it was her recipe. They're like, it says Paula Deen's banana pudding, you know. So it was her recipe. And she ended up going back and doing everything exactly as it was written on the recipe in front of her. It was just really funny. So it just made me think of that. I should have trusted myself. So I would eat mine like this. I like my crust to get a little bit soft, so I kind of crumble it in there. But you just put it on the side. Everybody can have a few. This is half the crust recipe of what normally goes in the chicken pot pie when you make a crust on the bottom and a crust on the top. But I have found that making half is plenty when served this way. People just eat less of it, and you get more of just the chicken and vegetables and broth. So it's super healing because we have the bone broth in there, the chicken, of course, all the vegetables. So this is a great recipe to enjoy right now. We're trying to keep our immunity up. It's been almost an hour, so I'm going to let y'all go. I've had so much fun chatting with you. I just want to look back at some comments. Denise says, oh yeah, you were here, great. You think your son will like it? Good, okay, I hope so. Cauliflower can actually add creaminess to food as it breaks up. Yes, and that's exactly what happened. So we had the little bit of the 3 tablespoons, I think, of arrowroot in there, which you want sort of like a gravy consistency, so you need a little bit. You don't need it. I prefer a little bit of a thickener in there. But yes, the cauliflower will just break up. I don't think it will really be detectable in the dish. And certainly if you break up some of the crust and mix that in, it has such a great flavor with the almonds and the lard. It'll, you know, you won't even notice the cauliflower. Oh, that's so interesting, Denise, that your son does not like to see you cook. All right, Denise, so I will put you on my prayer list with being out of a job, but how sweet that you're able to take care of your son and that you go the extra length to care for him. I appreciate you all. I enjoy having this community. I thank you for joining me and popping on live. Don't hesitate to leave comments and ask for recipes, you know, like you want more salad dressing recipes and you want them written up, or, you know, whatever. I need ideas, and that gives me ideas when you ask for things. Like somebody asked for broccoli and rice casserole back in the fall. I never thought of that because I had never heard of it. So definitely give me your ideas, make requests, and that helps me too. All right, so I hope you all have a great rest of your week. I hope this has been a little fun start to your week. It's certainly been fun for me. and we're gonna now eat some chicken pot pie. And I'll definitely get another one of these lives on the calendar. I'll make a comment and let you know. Make sure you're subscribed and you hit that bell icon so you'll be notified when I schedule a live and then when I go live. And I will look forward to chatting with you again next time. All right, thanks everybody.